It's a familiar scene this week as Jeff and I are back working on the charger. Jeff's continuing to strip down all the brackets and things that have to come off the car before we can put back in the new panels and the new floor. We've got to make a patch for the outside rocker panel, so we're going to get right to work this week. Last week we worked on patching all this interior metal that had rusted away, and what I need to do before I can patch the outer rocker panel, this little circle right here is where the seat belt, the rear seat belt bolts in through the body of the car here. Now I need to cut this hole out, and then this is the original square nut that was on the back side. It actually is on the inside of the rocker panel. So you can see here the metal just rusted and ripped away on this. We're going to reinforce the back side of this, clean this nut up, and remount it to the back side of this rocker after we cut open this hole so that we can get a bolt through there and we're able to bolt on the seat belt without this spinning inside of the rocker panel. Right here is where this nut is supposed to be welded in. This is just a piece of 18 gauge sheet metal, and this is what the seat belt bolts to. And that was part of the reason why the seat belt was loose in the back here, is because this had ripped away from all the rusted sheet metal back here. So what I'm gonna do, I've got a piece of 1/8 inch steel strapping here. I'm gonna cut a little piece of this off. We're gonna weld the nut directly to that piece of strapping, and then we're gonna weld the strapping onto our sheet metal here. It's just gonna give it a little bit more of a rigid backing. That way if this seat belt ever gets yanked on, you've gotta pull all of this 1/8 inch plate through the sheet metal rather than the smaller contact patch of the nut being pulled through that little piece of sheet metal. So it's going to provide a little extra safety, a little extra rigidity to the seat belt mount here. I want to get all this done before we start trying to patch up the rocker here, obviously, so that we can get this all welded into place fairly easily without fighting any of this outside rocker panel here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece of this up, get our nut welded on. We got to get a hole drilled in this as well and get that all welded in up in here. All right, I'm quickly going to test fit the bolt to make sure it actually lines up and we can get it started in the nut. Can, so that's fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and weld in this bracket. Now the seatbelt bracket, or seatbelt nut, is welded back in here. We got a really nice weld on that. I'm really happy with the way that turned out. So I'm going to go ahead and start rebuilding this outer rocker panel. Okay, you guys can see I've been working on fitment here. I punched out my holes for the pinch weld down here. This is really starting to fit up pretty nice. Now remember, the quarter panel is going to come down over the top of all this as well. So we don't have to be perfect here, we just have to be close. And I think we are very close right now. Fitment's looking really good. All I really need to do is come in and trim this top line. I left a little extra on the top. So we're going to start at the bottom here, on the inside corner here, work our way up this side and get this pinch weld tacked in place. Then I'm going to come in here with the cutoff wheel and clamp this down and just cut right along this edge here so we can butt weld this in, get that fit in there nice. I've already gone ahead and I've primed the inside anywhere we're going to be welding. I put Anywhere we're gonna be welding, I put weld through primer. Everywhere else has this rusty metal primer in there. I tried to spray as far up into the rocker as I could, just covering things up. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start getting this thing tacked in place and getting it kind of finally fit in and get everything welded up. All right, so there's our rocker patch all welded in, blended in for now. About as good as we're gonna do it. I mean, again, the quarter panel is gonna come down over the top of all this, and all of this is gonna be hidden. All these patches we did here are all gonna be hidden behind the quarter panel. So all we're trying to do here is get the majority of the rust out, clean this up as best as we can, treat the rest of the stuff to kind of keep the rust, the existing like pitted material from getting any worse. So we'll put rusty metal primer on all of this, and we may even treat this with like, I think there was like a rubberized undercoating on this before, just to dampen the noise between the panels when that quarter panel's on here, laid over the top of that. So we may do something like that. The next thing to do here is gonna be to fix the front end of that rocker, and I wanna take you guys over to the car here and just give you a little update on what Jeff's been up to. He went ahead and got this floor brace pulled out for us off the side of the frame here, cut some of the damaged floor back. He's been cleaning up all the braces and everything, and he started removing some of the Swiss cheese panels and all the rust, and he saved all these little pieces, and we're gonna make replacement patches for each of these, come back in and weld them all in, get everything cleaned up. Again, treat all this stuff that's under here and stop any of the cancer that's there from spreading, and just kind of rebuild all of these pieces from scratch. So I believe he's got those over here on the table. So we're going to use these things as basically as templates for the new pieces, and we'll just make everything from scratch. So none of this stuff is really available for purchase. So if you want to fix it, you basically have to do it yourself, which is what we're doing here. So that's kind of where we're at, probably about ready to wrap up for tonight. But we are going to be back out here in a couple nights, just pushing on with the rocker repair and the prep work so that we can get all this stuff put onto the car here before too long. Good morning, everybody. We're back out in the garage, getting back to work on the Charger. Jeff's over there. He's cutting up a bunch of the smaller pieces that we cut out of the side of the car here. He's gonna shape all those pieces, get them all ready to go back in. Today, what I'm working on is this really complex front of the rocker here. We had to cut this off the car in order to get the whole rest of this rocker. This is not the one that we pulled out, but to get the original rocker removed. And now we've got all this damage to repair. There's all this rust up in here, all the rust down in here, and we cannot purchase one of these, to the best of my knowledge, so we need to make it. So what the first thing I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna straighten this back out. I wanna get this back as close to its true shape as I can. Once we've got it back in its original shape, we're gonna template this thing out. It's probably gonna be 2 or 3 pieces that makes up this entire thing, because I don't have the ability to bend and break everything in all these complex shapes. So we're gonna make it in a couple pieces, weld it together, and hopefully get it to look something like the original panel did. So that's the goal for today. It's gonna be time consuming. It's gonna take us quite a while to get this worked out. So I'm gonna get to it here by first trying to hammer out this top edge and see if we can't work out what the original shape of this kind of area is here, because this is all bubbled up and broken, and we wanna get this all kind of back into semi-original condition so that I know exactly how to template this thing and cut out the pieces that I need. All right, you guys can see here the original. It's in cut in pieces. I just got it kind of propped up on itself, so it's not exactly straight, but you can see the general shape of that piece. And then our patch here is going to be very, very close to where we need it to be. So I've got this done in 2 sections here. I've got this piece and I've got this kind of L-shaped piece. So I did have to make a few modifications, and that's kind of the way that these template things go. Like, we had this weird area up here that I knew was damaged and I didn't quite understand how it was affecting the overall shape of the piece. And what I kind of discovered here is that all this material was bunched up and pinched up. And so there's a good section of this kind of flat portion of this piece that was missing. So I ended up having to trim this and get this little piece put in there. But now we can take this over to the car and we can kind of just test fit it here. And you can see as I hold this kind of in place, we got that rocker shape, that standoff there, kind of back in the way it needs to be. And all the rest of this looks pretty darn good. It looks like it's all going to line up pretty well. The one thing that we're kind of missing here is how is it going to join up with the other rocker piece. We can always massage this. We can always shape and massage and do what we need to do to get it to match up. But we're off to a very, very good start here. This is by far one of the most complex pieces that I've ever had to make. Lots of bends, lots of curves, lots going on here. But if you do this a piece at a time, you can make it happen. So the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to detach my 2 templates. I'm going to lay these flat onto some steel. We're going to cut out some steel and start trying to bend everything up into shape and get this into one solid piece of steel once we kind of get the bends all in place and we can start getting things welded up. So Jeff's been hard at work here. You can see he's gone ahead and made all of these repair patches for each of these pieces that we've already cut out. Now I'm going to come around here and give you guys an update on this rocker piece. So I've got my 2 rocker components here. We just need to start tacking this together. I could play with this for a whole day, but eventually what I need to do is just start tacking this thing together and trying to get it to take some shape here. We're very close as it is, but there's just a couple things that are off. Part of the challenge here is we figured out that the bottom of the replacement rocker is actually dented up pretty good, and the profile doesn't match what I've got going here, but this profile matches perfectly to the one that I cut off the car. So we've got a little bit of difference between the 2 rockers, and mostly it's because of the damage on this one. So we're gonna have to repair that and get the profile of the rocker to match there. But we are getting very close here, and I'm pretty proud of this piece because this is a very complex one. But we're gonna have a few, even once I get this tacked up, I'm gonna have a few little patches and things in here that we're gonna need to plug, and then just kind of clean this up and sand it up and make it look really good. I think it's gonna turn out pretty nice. So I'm gonna go ahead, get this thing tacked up, and I'll show you guys kind of what the finished product's gonna look like. I got to do a little work down on this flange and up in here, obviously, and I got to close that up, but it's might not be perfect, but it's not bad.
It's better than this.
Yeah.
All that crushed shit is gone.
Yep.
Man.
Awesome.
Lovely.
Feel the weight difference between the 2.
Oh, good Lord. That's is that the same gauge metal?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this is tacked together now. Now, like I said, I've still got a little bit of work to do, some fine tuning up in these corners, down in this corner. I kind of knew that because we had nothing down in this corner, and this one was all smashed up. So getting the template perfect was a little bit difficult up in these areas, but you guys can see, look at the huge difference we have between this old panel here. It's all beat up, all rusty, compared to our new one here. Now, is this going to be absolutely 100% perfect? No, but it's a huge improvement over just going with this old rusty crusty piece. There's going to be some body work that needs to be done in order to like make this thing actually, you know, perfect. I don't want to say perfect, but to get it to really match up to the rocker and get the body lines right. You know, that might require a little bit of filler and some sharpening on some edges and things like that. But overall, this is such a huge improvement, and I'm going to say I'm actually really happy with how this turned out, and I'm pretty pleased with myself, to be honest, because this is the most complex piece to date that I've really had to do. You can just see all the different angles and curves and shapes, and everything just kind of came out just how it should have here. So we're matching the original contour of the rocker on the car pretty well right now. Like I said, the new one isn't quite right, so we're going to have to try and match what's on what this replacement rocker is going to be to this one, but we've still got some damage to repair on that to make it right. So I've got a little bit more work to do down on the ends and the bottoms in here and everything, but I did just want to get this tacked together to kind of show you guys what could be done here in an afternoon. So this is, you know, about 5-6 hours of good work here. Honestly, it took almost just as long to make up the templates for this as it did to actually cut and bend and start to tack everything together. So really, once you got yourself a good template, it's all kind of downhill from there. So yeah, that's going to do it for this week's episode, guys. I know we didn't get a ton of visual progress done on the car, but we've got so much done. We've got all these patches made up, all the patches that I showed you guys that Jeff did earlier, and all the work we got done down on the rocker panel down here, and all the rust we've already gotten out of this thing. So we're making really good progress. This is just really time-consuming work. As you can imagine, you know, doing something like this, it takes a whole afternoon to get that done. It's not even finished yet. We got to get in here and weld it, grind it out, and get all that done. So it's just a little time-consuming. So we're just being patient, and we're taking this step by step, little bit by bit here. And before you know it, we're going to start to make really good progress on this car. So that's just the way you guys should attack your projects as well. You know, every little bit that you get done today is a little bit you don't have to do tomorrow. And so we're just taking this bit by bit, piece by piece. And, you know, we're just trying to make a little bit of progress every week and push our project just a little bit further forward. It takes some motivation, it takes some dedication, but if there's one thing Jeff and I have, it's motivation to make this charger look all the more better. So all that said, guys, if you don't work on your projects that will not work on themselves, get out in the garage, get building, and I'll see you on the next episode of Cody Builds.